you explain more about zkVerify?
zkVerify is the ZK proof verification layer. We hope for the world. We work with any kind of verifiers, any chain. We have a verification layer that is so versatile, efficient, and very usable. It's designed to decrease costs by about 90% and also be much faster.
This material is for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide accounting, legal, or tax advice, or investment recommendations, or an official statement of Presto or its affiliates.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Presto Research Podcast. I'm your host, Min, joined by our head of research, Peter.
Hello.
And today we have a special guest here, Gwen, VP of Horizen Labs. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Min and Peter. Hi, everyone.
So I guess just at the start, why don't you give a quick background of yourself and how did you join Horizen Labs?
So a quick background of myself. I spent the last almost 2 decades across Web 2 and Web 3. Before the term Web 2 was really, kind of took off, I was already in the internet, right? On the internet doing things. So back then, I was reading about startups, looking at tech. I was living in both Singapore and Silicon Valley, was very inspired by the space. And I thought that this was an interesting area and an interesting innovation that we should really double down on. And so when I came back to Singapore, I started blogging about the space. Remember the term blog, right? So publishing online. So I started writing about Southeast Asia technology startups, and that rolled on. So this started when I was in college and university, and that really just opened up my life, my career, to a whole bunch of things. So for example, before graduation even, the Singapore government came to my blog, to me, and they're like, hey, we've got big plans for the internet space, for startups for Singapore. We've got $500 million. We would like you to be part of it, to invest in the startups, because as a blog, we were interviewing founders, entrepreneurs, developers, all the engineers, really on the ground, right? So we knew who were the builders. And so they're like, yeah, hey, through you're on the ground, who are the people to invest in. So that started my investment journey right out of college. So that was super interesting. And since then, I've continued doing a lot of more investments. I've done deep tech as well, working with PhDs and postdocs from anything from CRISPR engineering to quantum computing to people converting pollution into fabrics, super interesting. And on the operational side, I started a blog and I sold that several years later. And I also started a bunch of things more for bigger companies. So I worked at a leading publisher from the US. I worked at one of the big social media giants as well. And prior to Horizen Labs, I was also at another crypto giant where I led and founded the chain fund, and where we did a lot of investments, grants, and also kind of growing the chain at the exchange. So that was the journey before Horizen Labs. And Horizen Labs was super interesting. I'm only maybe about, 8-9 months into Horizen Labs. And how I joined was I met Rob, the CEO, at Token 2049 during that week in Singapore of 2 years ago. And I was super interested in the space, in the tech, but also more importantly, as someone who had personally tried to do a decentralized identity startup back in 2017, I was like, oh my gosh, the technology is here. The people who are doing it was right in front of me. Rob was, doing things in that space, and I was intrigued. And 1 year later, I joined the team.
That's great. So I guess I think creating contents on your own is something that's, I guess, kind of started off your career into this tech space. I guess that's quite that's quite an experience, because obviously we as a podcast host, we are creating contents as well, and also we publish reports also. So it's something that I increasingly realize is a very important aspect of getting involved in a startup space.
Yeah, I completely see that. So I actually started teaching myself coding when I was 12. So I've been partial to, again, first-hand experience. Again, I'm not technical now, but I like the creation aspect of it. But where I think media is very important, and I'm sure both of you agree, is that it's really another pillar of an ecosystem, right? Reason why I started blogging was that back then, you're talking about early 2000s, kind of mid 2000s. startups were, at least in Singapore and Southeast Asia, was a much smaller thing. And the mainstream media were not publishing and writing about startups. And I thought, this is such a waste, these cool people on the ground, you need an avenue to reach the masses. The smaller you are, the more you need help. So I thought media is super important. So I completely see the journey and the work of what you're doing, the value of what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, makes you, sorry, I don't want to digress too much, but it makes you wonder how people really started out a company before the days of a blog. I just gotta wonder, you gotta give a hats to somebody like Steve Jobs, who, started out a company in the late 70s before the days of internet and all these medium to communicate the ideas to the people. So yeah, really kind of, yeah.
That's true. And then 20 years later, people are going to wonder how we started companies, because next time they can beam it directly into your brain.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's an interesting point.
I guess going more into deeper question, I guess we need to clarify, it'll be good to clarify what's like the relationship between Horizen Labs, and we're going to talk about zkVerify as well. So what's kind of the relationship between those two? And also, can you explain more about zkVerify as well?
Yeah, thank you, Min. So Horizen Labs is a labs co. We're building co with an infrastructure company that initially launched zkVerify and also Horizen. So Horizen Labs has been around for about 8-9 years. And there's a lot of very strong cryptographic chops within the company, a lot of super strong research people, math people, all within the company. And the history of it is that we actually launched Zencash in May 2017. It was a privacy coin back then, and since then we've moved privacy from the coin, because all the regulations back then. And so now the Zen token exists. We recently migrated Zen to be in the Base ecosystem. So that's kind of one product to a certain extent. And before I go to zkVerify, Min, so Horizen, then it's basically a separate chain where it's an L3 in the Base ecosystem. So that's kind of a new journey for us, where we are excited to have and be like the privacy-focused ecosystem within the Base ecosystem. Then lastly, zkVerify. zkVerify is an L1, we're substrate L1, where zkVerify is the zk proof verification layer we hope for the world. What this means is that we can work with any kind of verifiers, or we can work with any chains. We can allow you to generate your proof, verify on zkVerify, and send it to any chain that you want. It's designed to really decrease cost by about 90% and also be much faster.
Is there, question about Horizen, is there any reason why you guys was it like a pivot to Base L3, or can you say it was like a pivot? What was like the reason for it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So originally, Horizen, the history of it was that before I joined, the team was working on an EVM called Eon, right? So that was more than a year ago now. So the company, the team, worked on the EVM for quite a while. And so near the time I joined, so again, early this year, we were looking at the ecosystem and looking at the chains, right? And me having had experience at BNB chain, I knew firsthand that running a chain is not so easy. And even at BNB, we had the branding of Binance. It is a Binance chain, right? And yet it was difficult. So, the market is super challenging. There are so many great builders and chains and infrastructures out there and ecosystems, right? So when we looked at the market, we thought about okay, how can we really best, number one, where is the best place that we can bring our privacy tech, our kind of, again, deep experience in building out all these different cryptographic primitives and protocols to the market. And we looked at then the market, we looked at Base. It's growing so well. It's not just a Web3 thing for Base, right? It's Web2 as well, because you're talking about Coinbase. And so looking at the market and how much Coinbase and Base have really grown, taken over in sense of the traditional world, even again IPO back a long time ago, right? And then for the Base side of things, kind of growing it out, having a lot of momentum. We thought it would be a great place for us to kind of land and to kind of play in. And more importantly, when we spoke to the folks at Base, they were super on board. They were super welcoming of what we're doing. And so we launched at East Denver together with Base. We were the first cohort where they said, hey, welcome Horizen, a privacy chain within the Base ecosystem. So all in, we really looked at it as a journey into like kind of next phase. So I guess Min, using our term pivot is probably a right word, right? And as all startups do, we always need to pivot with the market, with what's right for right now, and hopefully that's what's right for right now is also right for the long term.
Got it. I guess talking about zkVerify now, then the term ZK itself has been like a very buzzword in crypto scene for a long time, and even recently there was a TGE of Succint which went well. So I was kind of curious, how do you see the state of ZK kind of evolving?
So ZK is a buzzword. That's interesting, right? I feel like ZK is one of those things that pops up here and then, pops up in waves, dies a little bit, right? And then pops up again, right? So if you look at the narratives, I think you're absolutely right, where ZK now seems to be a buzzword again and hot. But what I would say about the larger ZK state is that apart from the narrative building and narratives that are consuming kind of the industry, I would say that the larger space of ZK people, working in the space. So again, way smarter people than I, who's been working in the space for years and decades even, right? Because again, cryptography is more than just Web3. They've been building silently behind the scenes, right? So when we look at today, I think it's great that ZK is again back as a buzzword and Succint had the TGE. At the same time, when I look at narratives, I think it's only short-term blips. It can bring short-term kind of attention to the space, and as a Web3 native project and company, you want to leverage that, right? When we look at the state of it, I'm extremely bullish about the tech, and more importantly, the usage of the tech. Because I come from a place where, I worked a lot of technology startups across the years. The best tech don't necessarily win, right? As we know, it's really the market, it's the people really thinking about moving fast and moving with the market. So that's very important. So the ZK space, the tech-wise, there's so much is happening, a lot of things, a lot of our peers, are increasing like new chains, new bridges, new ZK bridges, like new kind of verifiers and stuff like that. All great. But what's more important is that under the hood, some more visible than others, there's a lot more movement in the usability of it. Right. So you take a Web2 example, Google Wallet now adding zero knowledge proofs to so that the users can determine that they're above a certain age without revealing the data, right? Their birth date. So I think that's important kind of anecdote that is showing me that ZK now has already been bigger than Web3. ZK it touches Web2 and Web3 and the wider internet, what we hope. So we project and expect, maybe something like 1 trillion proofs, proof market in about 5 years, so about 2030 or so. And we're excited that, that hopefully that this will come. And looking at what's happening today, again, with the Google Wallet example, and you have so many breaches happening in Web2, Web3, and when we on our side, when we look at the go-to-market strategy, for zkVerify, we are increasingly talking to people who perhaps know nothing about blockchain, but are interested in the tech. And ZK piece actually technically doesn't really need blockchain, right? But with blockchain, there can be some use cases, many use cases that can be enabled with it. So where we're seeing all these movements by people and big companies again. And yeah, so I'm very, very bullish.
Yeah, maybe that's a good segue to talk about, for those who are not familiar, like what it is that your team is actually building and how that fit into the entire ZK ecosystem that is developing right now.
Yeah. So for people who are listening and, to zero knowledge for the first time, zero knowledge cryptographic tech is essentially a way where you preserve a secret that you have personal details as an example, right? Again, like let's say my birthday, and I can go to a bar or whatever, and all they need to know is they trust this mutually, like this app, let's say, that I'm above 18 or I'm above 21, depends on which country and state you're in, right? Without knowing it, without needing to see my full ID with my birth date. So it's zero knowledge because they have zero knowledge of my actual details, but yet they trust it. So that's a very, very simplified version of what zero knowledge cryptographic proof is. And so what zkVerify is doing is that we are at the bottom of the Z tech stack. And why we think this is important is that there's so many, again, players out there doing a lot of different things. You have virtual machines, you have the different prover networks, different generations of proof, different people creating domain-specific languages, right? All these are all very important work. We're all kind of working together. But where we think is the missing link is the verification side of things. Because at scale, generation of proof is expensive, sure. Verification proof is also expensive, right? But more importantly, even though generation of proof costs, on average costs more than verification right now, at scale, verification proofs, the price of verification will add up, right? And the speed will add up. Like this is going to snowball. That's what we think. And the market right now, I would say it's growing, and it may not be big enough to really see the potential yet. But this is where that we think we are like just on time early, proving our tech, getting adoption from partners in the ZK space, but also, like I said, we're talking to like non-blockchain and non-ZK people, about using the tech, right? So where we think right now is that we're so early, or early, but just on time, because too early is also like terrible for a startup, right? So market timing is important. So we think we're right at the cusp where it's going to really explode. And so at the bottom of the tech stack, meaning once you generate the proofs, and whichever kind of verifier that you want, type of proof that you want, you can send it to zkVerify to verify it. And then it can be sent back, let's say to Ethereum or whatever chain that you want, where you can use the proof for something else. For example, like a simple leaderboard, or to prove randomness, or something like that. So there's many other use cases, of which identity is one of the ones that we're really, really bullish about.
Got it. And what do you think? I mean, the ZK scene is getting crowded for sure. So what do you think? What sets apart from like zkVerify from its competitors? Or what's like the strengths, I guess?
We like competitors. It means that there's a market. Again, right? So we welcome competitors. It means that all of us are validating, that there's something to be done in the space. So for us, but having said that, we don't really focus on how are we competing? We're focusing on what we do well, right? Which is that we do really well the fact that we have a verification layer that is so versatile, efficient, and number one, very usable, right? So that's what we're focusing on. We're trying to build not just the best tech available, the fastest and cheapest, but also, on the partnership side and go-to-market side, we are increasingly seeing, again, much more interested parties and conversations. So I think that's important. We don't really think about too much about how we compete and stuff like that, because a lot of other people, to be fair, are also doing good work. And I think so are we.
Good stuff. Then I want to shift the gear a little bit and maybe ask about the role that the tokens can play in nurturing your ecosystem and network, because obviously being a decentralized solution, that's going to be one of the things that I think the community is going to care about.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter. So for us, we are looking at TG sometime perhaps this year, right? So hopefully soon to come. But more importantly, we really believe in community engagement. But let's talk about the utility of the token first, right? So zkVerify will require the token as basically a fee. Right, it's like gas fee essentially. So that's the usage of it. I think why I say that, and it's important to me, is that I personally don't like tokens without usage. Right, I classify like the meme coins and stuff as like almost a different category, like almost tokenization of culture. But for us, zkVerify token will have proper utility. That's one. But second, also in the current plan, we are looking at at a good more than 1/3 of the tokens to be distributed to the community. And for us, community engagement, making sure that people who believe in the tech, users of the tech, also have stake in the ecosystem. So right now, for example, we have incentivized testnet, proof points. You can earn proof points on this dashboard. And fun fact, I also coded a game where if you play my game, you can also get proof points, right? So we're trying to many ways where we're not just have all these kind of fun stuff, to make it more accessible to people, because we coming back to a little bit of the kind of to a certain extent what we talked about in terms of go to market. We think that to make it accessible to people is also letting them through simpler ways, like again, a verifiable high score is an easy way to understand what ZK proofs can do, right? So but there's a lot of things. We also have actual users of a testnet right now, but to simply put, good. We want users, both a retail user, institutional user, whales, what have you, to come in, try out the different games. There's a few dApps as well, to just try out what it means, in terms of generating a proof and verifying a proof. Yeah, so we're excited for the pathway to come, for the journey ahead. And also one thing is that we are looking to, have like buyback and burn kind of strategies as well. Obviously the classic kind of governance stuff as well. So really looking to learn from the best in the space, the best tokenomics in the space.
I guess then moving into more of your personal journey, I guess you've been in this industry as an investor as well, right? Can I say it's BNB Chain Fund or?
Yeah, I said that.
Right. Okay. So like, what's like one of the trend that you're currently seeing that you're most bullish on? Whether it could be ZK or it could be a different thing, but what's like the one theme or?
I would answer that question in a few, let me answer it because there's a few ways to look at things, right? One is that narrative-driven investing. And second would be like investing because it's good tech, it's good product, it's good market, right? And the two are not necessarily aligned sometimes, right? Unfortunately. So when you look at the market today, Min, in terms of more narratives, you mentioned ZK as a buzzword. I think it's coming back, but I'm not sure how long this will last, to be honest, right? So even on our side, Peter, back to your question about tokens and tokenomics, I think it's timing as well. So we want to make sure that we are, leveraging the wave and a good timing. And another narrative, as everyone keeps saying, AI. But I think what's interesting is that being also in the ZK space is that the AI and ZK space is super interesting, which I think is the emerging narrative that is going to really take over. Why this is so is that I think now more than ever, AI needs blockchain and also ZK. Because when we look at AI taking over the world, it's now we're almost in a post-truth world, right? Everything you see can be deepfaked. So like trust is even more important. Verifiability is even more important, right? So all the more I think the AI coupled with blockchain, will make for a very good pair. But more importantly, not just on the traceability of blockchain side of things, because you don't want everything to be public again, right? You sometimes want to verify that the $10 a month that you're paying for AI model number one, you're actually getting AI model number one. You're not getting an inferior version to the $10. Right? So you're not getting like a free version to some extent. So there's a lot of things that with ZK, you're able to, in a sense, the circuits and all can prove that was the black box AI that you paid for or you're using, right? So I think this AI and ZK narrative, is it AI cross blockchain ZK is something that I'm very bullish about. But at the same time, from the taking on an investment eye, then it depends on like your time frame, right? Are you looking at this bull market time frame, 6 to 12 months maybe, if we're lucky, right? Or you're looking at a longer term play. So depending on where the mandate is, I would actually put my funds slightly differently.
Just curious, is there any your most proud investment, I guess personally or professionally, that you could pick in either Web 2 or Web 3?
Yeah, I have two, one in Web 2 and one in Web 3. So Web 2, I invested in Shopback, which is a cashback program, an app and an ecosystem. Is really across Asia right now. So it's very simple. You buy something with like the link, it can track back, and you get cash back as a retail user. And for the merchants, they get more customers. And in Web3, I was honored to be alongside the Virtuals team, the journey for a few months. And that team is super sharp. Like really super sharp, one of the sharpest in the space. So these two are from my personal side of things. I've been incredibly blessed to be along both of their journeys.
When was your time with Virtuals? Like, what was your, when did you like first?
Yeah, it was more like last year.
Yep. So I guess kind of wrapping up a bit, for people who's interested in Horizen Labs and also zkVerify, can you share on where people could find more information or get an update?
Yeah, thank you. So our websites are zkverify.io and Horizen.io, Horizen with Z-E-N. Yeah. And you can find us on these websites. The Twitter handles are also all a bit more complicated, so the websites are easier to name, like zkV Protocol and Horizen Global. So it's a bit more complicated. But yeah, you can find us online.
Yep, I think that's all for today. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Gwen, for sharing your journey. See you all next week.
Peter. Thank you, Presto.
Thank you.
Yep, I think that's